Hi everyone, we have the 1938 Los Angeles flood, and in our group is Molly, Caroline, and Camille. What patterns caused this flooding? The flooding was primarily driven by intense precipitation associated with the significant storm. The storm was likely brought from the moisture in the air in the Pacific Ocean. So at the bottom in the flood map, we can kind of see how close it is to the ocean. And as we talked about in class, this is a huge part of where evaporation happens, and then the water cycle happens over and over again. And this storm system dumped a huge, huge volume of rain, and this was over a short period of time, which then caused saturation of the soil, and then further effects like runoff into the streets, rivers, and low-lying areas. This rainfall was overwhelming for the system, and the drainage was not really ready for it, and this led to the widespread, huge flooding on a bigger scale. So next we have frequency, geological impact, and then climate change impact. So Los Angeles and the other part of Southern California do occasionally experience flooding because of its location. However, during this period specifically, they were associated with a winter storm. This does vary over time, depending on certain weather patterns. So the geological impact was that the flooding in 1938 impacted a large geographical region within and around Los Angeles. Urban areas were affected, and river basins, as well as low-lying regions. And these were in the most vulnerable place. The St. Gabriel and Los Angeles rivers in particular experienced significant overflow caused by widespread flooding in nearby communities. The anthropogenic factors, as well as migration and adaptation measures, were urban growth and expansion increased the region's vulnerability to flooding. Lack of stormwater management infrastructure at the time likely contributed to the severity of the flooding. This kind of, in simple means, is saying that while this growth was really, really positive and people were expanding, there was also the downside of that, where the natural landscape was vulnerable, because as we talked about, like cement versus soil has completely different properties, and because of the new technology, there was not as much natural things, so this made the flooding 10 times worse. For stormwater management practices, there was also things that could have been better within storm management for water, and then implementing measures and advancements in weather forecasting, as well as having emergency responders be there faster. So next, the societal and economical impacts. The death toll was around 100 people, 700 million people, $700 million in damages, 5,600 homes were destroyed, and then Universal City Bridge crumbled and led to the collapse. People's businesses and homes were destroyed, which led to the communities being cut off and then having to relocate in other areas. This also created other problems with telephone lines being cut, and everyday life was just kind of put on hold until the situation could calm down. So in the picture to the right, this was a picture taken during the flood, and as you can see, there was nothing that could go on because they were submerged underwater. Day-to-day life was not going to be possible. Next, we have adaptation strategies that were in response to this flooding disaster. And the first one is how U.S. Army Corps ended up paving a lot of the river. The concrete embankments were used to prevent control potential problems. And then 3.8 pounds of concrete also used to create channels, more storm drains were implemented. And then sadly, this did take up much of the wildlife. And then below we have our sources for everything. Thank you so much. And that's it.